center field. Back toward the track. And that ball is gone.
You are listening to the North Shore 9 podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, make sure to watch NS9 Live every Thursday on Twitch and help support by becoming a patron. Let's go Bucks!
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Starbucks with Jim and DiNardo. I, of course, am your host, Anthony DiNardo, and with me is Jim Rosati from the Northside Notch. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, DiNardo. Thought we'd have some more trades to talk about today. Didn't really end up that way, but hey, it's a beautiful Wednesday morning.
What are you talking about? We traded Gerard Dyson, and clearly we traded Musgrove. We traded Cole, right? Trevor Williams is gone. Adam Frazier's gone. Rich Rodriguez is gone. All the clear people we talked about this entire week and the trade value they had, they're all gone, right? No,
they're not.
What happened?
Apparently, what was the quote from Charrington? We had a bar set for each player, and the bar was not met.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that, because obviously we know we live in a world where the Pirates are always damned no matter what, right? They don't make a trade, and it's the worst thing in the world with the Felipe Vasquez situation. It's the worst thing in the world. They should have pulled the trigger. They should have took what they got. And then they pull the trigger and take what they got, and it's the Garrett Cole trade, and they're damned because they made that deal, right? So now we have a whole new regime. It's Ben Cherington. You would expect, the rebuild's going to start at some point in time. This trade deadline could have marked that, could have made a stamp, made a lot of moves. Nothing happened. I mean, do we damn Ben Cherington for not making any move other than Dyson?
It's hard to say just because we don't know what was out there. Like if there was an offer made for Fiona Kella, or if there was an offer made for Derek Holland, then I feel like no matter really what that offer was, it probably should have been taken.
Right.
Just take the best deal out there.
To quote, we don't really know the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Right. So, but we don't really know if that was the case or not. We'll never know. Charrington won't come out and say ever, "Hey, we had this deal on the table for Derek Holland." Those are the only two guys where, like, literally, if anybody was willing to give you anything, those are the two guys that you trade. Everybody else, you want to at least get some sort of value for, because they've got years of control with them. But yeah, I was a little surprised. I was thinking at least Richard Rodriguez would get dealt, but didn't happen.
Yeah, that's a good call. I felt he was probably the most likely to go in that sense. Like Chad Cole Trevor Williams could have made sense, but like Rich Rod, I feel like you sell high at this point in time. It's not even like the high of a sell, but he's showing something. Like, go ahead and get rid of him. It makes sense. And like you said, like the fact that he wasn't dealt, Kella, I know he was injured, but it's his last year. Holland hasn't shown much anything these past two starts. But right, like they're not in your future. This is it. So if I was getting $1 for each of them, I'm just going to take the $1. Let's go buy myself a Coke. Maybe I'll buy a couple for $3. I don't know. But
exactly.
But right, you're going to take something for them. So that tells me the fact that they weren't traded, there was not any offer on the table at all. Not so surprising. There was trades right and left. It seemed like everyone was available. Even teams that were, buying, like the Marlins ended up selling as well. So when we thought this was going to be like a seller's market and there's going to be like 4 to 5 teams doing it, seemed like it opened up a little more and there was a lot more activity out there. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm with you. We'll never probably know what was offered. But at the same sense, like, if there was I appreciate there should be a bar. There's not a reason that you have to sell right now. And as we've talked about, everyone is probably at the lowest possible point this year because everyone's terrible. So I guess in his mind, it's like, why sell for such pennies on the dollar when maybe I can go ahead and salvage something for this offseason or this next trade deadline. I mean, I'll probably at least get what I was offered today. So why not try to reestablish value? I get that. I am shocked nothing happened, but I guess I get that.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense. And along those lines, because of just it was just such it was an unfortunate just situation really that happened. There it was probably the most active trade deadline. That was the most active trade deadline that I think I can remember. I don't remember a trade deadline where like that many deals were being made, like involving pretty decent players as well. So you had this super active trade deadline that hurts the Pirates because what it does now is it actually made more sellers than I anticipated.
Right.
So the players that the Pirates did have no longer were anywhere near the top of teams' list when it came to buyers. I was thinking going into this, Trevor Williams may be one of the top pitchers available, at the deadline, right? And
Right.
you look at some of the pitchers that were dealt, and it's like, probably not. Like that, there were some pretty good pitchers dealt, and so because of that, and because of how all of these players are underperforming, it was kind of a perfect storm for nothing to happen. So
Sure.
you had all these players that were made available to these contenders. You're not gonna settle for Adam Frazier, who has a 61 weighted runs created plus.
Right.
There's no reason to trade for him because there's other guys available that are performing better. So it's hard to get on Cherington for that. Like if we had some players that were performing at the level that we all expected them to, then yeah, like there probably should have been some trades made. But this wasn't the case. He didn't have much to work with, and I said a lot of other teams jumped in that we weren't really anticipating.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, too, we talk about this before, takes two to tango. So, obviously, like Charrington was probably motivated, based on quotes beforehand that he's open and willing to trade anyone and everybody. So he was definitely open to making some trades, but it takes the other side to say, yeah, go ahead. And obviously, famously right now, which everyone's harping on, and this is nutting, Huntington, that there was an offer, there was a deal with the Blue Jays, but it, fell apart the 11th hour. And right, as you mentioned, well, it just didn't hit our mark. I mean, it's such a Huntington quote, but
yeah,
let's think of the Blue Jays perspective. Do I want Joe Musgrove, who's been injured virtually this entire season? If I'm going to make a playoff push, do I want to push my chips in and risk a Joe Musgrove? Or, well, wait, the Dodgers are selling Ross Stripling? Like the Dodgers are selling off pieces? I can get Ross Stripling, who has had far more success in the past. He is healthy. Yeah, you know what? I appreciate Joe Musgrove. Hey, we had him in our system years ago, but let me go get this Ross Stripling. That looks way more appeasing right now. So again, like, is it fully on the Pirates? No, if I'm the Blue Jays, I'm taking Ross Stripling right now, and I'm not taking Joe Musgrove. So it's like that's like we were getting at. I mean, there's more teams. Who would have thought the Dodgers would be a seller? The Dodgers didn't acquire anyone. They sold off a piece.
Yeah, that trade was interesting. Like when I saw that they were dealing Ross Stripling, I was like, why? Like I know he's not having the best year, but that's been a valuable part of that pitching staff,
Right.
Because of his versatility. He
Yep.
can start, he can come out of the bullpen, he can pitch multiple innings. Like he's been a valuable pitcher for them. So that was a little surprising. And yeah, to your point, if you've got somebody who's not even healthy in Joe Musgrove and Ross Stripling, if you're given those two choices, I can see why they went with Stripling. Like I can understand that move.
Yep. And it cost them the 13th prospect. Solid. So it's like right then and there. I mean, so obviously I'm going with Stripling probably more than Musgrove. So was Musgrove netting in that deal? I mean, if you're offering the 13th prospect in your system for Stripling, it's probably going to be worse than that. So again, was it worth it to go ahead and trade Joe Musgrove right now at his lowest point to maybe get the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th prospect of the Blue Jays system? Maybe not. I'll maybe hold on to him. Hopefully he finishes off the season successfully, and maybe I'll trade him at the deadline. get back to that number 13, 10th range or something. So yeah, like I don't hate the fact. It's disappointing as, it's disappointing for us because now again we have nothing to talk about. I wanted the trade deadline. I wanted to see something, acquire new players. It'd be fun, exciting. It's new, but I don't hate it because it was probably the smarter decision. And that's why you're the GM. You're not the GM to give us something to talk about. You're not the GM to appease the fans. You're the GM to make the best decisions for this organization. And unfortunately for us, that probably was the case right now. So, hey, we didn't talk about it too much, but I mean, he did trade Dyson and he did get a solid, in my point, he did get a solid amount of international dollars for Dyson. I'm shocked by this.
Yeah, no, the return for Dyson is great. I mean, you get somebody off your team who was literally giving you nothing. Frees up some playing time for other guys. You've seen Cole Tucker play pretty much every day ever since that. So no, I mean that move was good. To get anything for him, honestly, like I would have thought Gerard Dyson being dealt would have meant cash considerations type thing,
right?
But yeah, international money that can actually be useful. That's good to see. It's actually interesting because I mean, I was telling people for a couple weeks now, temper your expectations here on this trade deadline. Leonardo, as crazy as this whole trade deadline was, there was still only one top 100 prospect dealt in all of baseball.
Yep.
So it kind of goes back to, yeah, you know what? There were a lot of moves made, a lot of teams made trades, and the Pirates didn't really do what we thought they would. There really wasn't a lot of impact talent dealt really in either way. It was kind of just moving guys around.
You're
a lot
right.
of depth guys, but impact talent really didn't get dealt. So yeah, like I said, if Ross Stripling was getting a 13th rated prospect in the Blue Jays system, Chad Cole wasn't getting you a top 100 prospect.
That's a very good point because you're absolutely correct. And right, you were harping on it the whole time, like, lower them expectations. Man, there obviously was zero expectations because nothing happened, but you're right. There was one player in the top 100 that was traded. That was it. There was a flurry of moves, but even on that too, like think about the teams that needed pitching, like even the Braves, they settled for cheap pitchers. Like they got Tommy Malone for no one that's really going to be effective for them, and like look at him, like he's going to be a number 5 pitcher and probably not like play in the playoffs. So the teams that needed pitching actually didn't even buy so much, so like that worked against the Pirates as well. They could have maybe got Joe Musgrove, but they decided, we don't want to. That's what 2020 is. Like it just seems some teams were like, what, screw it. Like the Marlins, like we're below 500, but screw it. There's a chance. Let's make a deal. And there's teams like the Braves and the Dodgers that I guess we're looking at like, hey, it's 2020. Screw this year. What are we going to invest into it for? Let's wait till next year for a real season. Even the Yankees didn't do anything, and how many injuries they have.
I mean, you look at the Yankees bullpen, they probably would have been a good matchup for, another arm too. They like you said, the injuries that they've had to their team, they needed some people, and yeah, they didn't make a single move, I don't think.
No, not one. Well, yeah, no. I guess they added Jordy. They added Jordy Mercer.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they just DFA'd him, I think, yesterday. So yeah, that was their big acquisition. They added a free agent in Jordy Mercer.
There you go. So that was it.
Yeah.
So that kind of yeah. So speaking on the top 100 prospects, that's kind of a good segue to a topic we wanted to spend a little bit of time about. The only top 100 prospect dealt was Taylor Trammell.
Yep.
To Seattle for package that included Austin Nola, not Aaron Nola, Austin Nola, 30-year-old catcher from the Mariners. So when this trade was made, a lot of people were like, oh, wow, if the Mariners can get that for Austin Nola, the Pirates should be able to get that for Jacob Stallings.
Yeah, there was a lot of that on Twitter that night. And let's discuss that because you're absolutely correct. When this trade happened, I either saw, now this was a fewer amount, but I saw, well, if Nola's getting that, then the Pirates can get better. The other thing I saw more of was, well, if Nola brings that, then the Pirates should at least get that. Hey, you know what? What I put out there was this only helps Stallings. I mean, that trade didn't hurt a Stallings return if a Stallings return was going to happen, but
yeah,
the similarities I get. Like Nolan, 30 years old, he really was nothing. He came onto the scene last year. So, I mean, it's like he's had 108 games, I think, under his belt at age 30. Stallings, another late bloomer. He had more years into the league per se. It's like his fourth year playing, very sparingly. But it was like last year he broke out. So Nola had like the breakout last year. Stallings had the breakout differently. And now they're two very good late bloomer catchers. So I guess you see the similarities. It's like, well, if that's what Nola's bringing, then this is what Stallings is going to bring. But I think what we're here to talk about, Jim, is how Stallings is not as valuable as Nola. Correct? I mean, we're probably going to get less.
Like you said, I see the similarities, right? They're both hitting for average this year. So like I said, both 30, both coming on late, both good defensive catchers.
Mm-hmm.
Really, where Nola kind of separates himself, though, is really with the bat. Like, I know Stallings, we talk about how good of a season Stallings is having, led all batters in baseball and batting average last month, right? But
think about that. I think you got to pause and say that again.
Yeah. Jacob Stallings led all NL hitters in batting average last month. But you look at just kind of the underlying numbers and the power, right? I mean, just look at the ISOs. Like Jacob Stallings' ISO is 96. Austin Nola's ISO is 218. Weighted runs created plus, Austin Nola 146. Stallings 126. So Nola has the much better bat. Stallings has obviously shown that he's better than we thought he was with the bat. I still don't think Stallings' offensive numbers this year are really who he is. And you brought up a number that I'll let you kind of talk about here as to why. But Nola, like I said, very similar. I think Nola is a little bit more valuable. He's also a little more versatile, kind of play around the field too. Like he's not just a catcher. But no, I think it was a good trade for the Mariners. Good trade for the Padres. It's a good trade for everybody. It's just, I feel like Nola just a little bit better than Stallings. I don't think Stallings could have pulled something like that back.
Sure. And like in this deal, I hand it to Dipoto because, I mean, you're able to flip this journeyman who's been in your minor league system like your entire time, who just comes out onto the scene last year at age 29, and you're able to flip him for a top 100 prospect. I mean, kudos to you, but you're absolutely correct. Like when I look at the two, us as Pirates fans, right? People in Pittsburgh, like, Stallings' story, the hype was out this offseason because of his pitch framing and such. So, like the defense was there. And, we've pretty much been saying, like, if Stallings can be, I forget the exact number, I think we're joking, like an 88-ish, 90-ish weighted run created player. Like if he had like a 90 weighted run created plus, he would be a good, catcher. Like that's a good, solid catcher that we're hoping for. And right now he's got like that 120, like you mentioned. So like the offense is looking really good. But when I look at the two, Nola seems way more sustainable. I mean, that fits his profile. And that's what he also has done last year. So it's not like this year the offense just kind of broke out. Like last year, the numbers were there. His getting on base is definitely hitting for power. 10 home runs and 267 plate appearances. And he's doing it again this year, but better. But the difference is like that bat profile. He hits the ball really hard, Jim. Like everything matches up. But when we look at Stallings, it seems like it's a lot of empty numbers. Like I understand the batting average is there, but he's not hitting the ball very hard, Jim. If anything wants to point it out, just look at that double he had the other night that blooped in between the first baseman and the right fielder and like the foul line, like it was like in the perfect spot. And the guy who runs, I think, a 13.840 got on second base. So So I think that like just identifies what Stallings' season has been. It's been a lot of smoke and mirrors. You know, this is a guy who owns a BABIP of 449. Again, he's in the 1 percentile for sprint speed. He's not a burner. It's not like Starling Marte's getting up there, Kevin Newman, you know, and they hit a lot of infield singles, and that's why like the high BABIP can translate to a higher batting average. Such this guy's slow as hell. We joke about Colin Moran. This guy's way slower than Colin Moran. So this isn't a guy who's going to be burning out infield singles and such. These balls are just falling in a perfect spot right now. He's getting very lucky, is what I'm saying. And I think other teams obviously have way better scouting departments than you and I, Jim. So if we're seeing this stuff, they're looking and saying, you know what? Yeah, it's cool. He's having a good season. The defense is there, but I don't trust the offense. When I look at Nola, I trust that. I'm willing to give off pieces because I trust Nola's profile, then to give him off to Stallings because I feel like once I get him, he's going to turn into the pumpkin, and now he becomes the 230 batting average. You know, like the offense just falls off. Yeah, we have a good glove, but now the offense is gone, and why do we trade for him?
Yeah, no, I mean you hit the nail on the head there. Stallings is listen, again, he's having a great season, but you know we shouldn't expect Jacob Stallings to be a 125 weighted runs created plus guy, you know, for his career. That's just not who he is. Like you mentioned before, the 449 BABIP, just completely unsustainable. You bring up StatCast pages. Nola has a lot more red on his page than Stallings does. So Nola hits the ball harder. So the underlying numbers support Nola as the better offensive player. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I can totally see the similarities there, but you know, kind of once you dig a little bit deeper, you know, Nola's probably the better guy.
Yep. And you know, to end this and transition before we do go, I just want to say again, like even though we're saying this, it doesn't mean Stallings doesn't have any value. He definitely does. And obviously, like I said, that trade could really only help it because wow, Nola netted a top 100 prospect. That's pretty impressive. But don't expect the Stallings trade to get you a top 100 prospect. Again, that's where the temper expectations. I'd be ecstatic if we traded Stallings and got a top 10 prospect in anyone's system, you know? Because what was Stallings' entire time? Like, did he ever crack, you know, our top? No. So you'd be able to use Stallings and flip him for a top prospect in that sense. Yeah, but it's still not going to be a top 100. So anyways, yeah, so let's pivot off of that. So the trade deadline happened, not much with the Pirates, got Dyson. But you know what? As Huntington used to love to say as well, the Pirates made a trade, Jim. They called up Ke'Bryan Hayes. It was the trade that wasn't a trade. Ke'Bryan Hayes came up yesterday. What happened? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could have asked for a better debut. He really announced himself to the Pirate fan base. So, you know, the first hit, you know, we'll I mean, just kind of go. He started off 0 for 2, so a couple of bats where he didn't get a hit, but then his third bat, really, it was an inside pitch, pulled his hands in, and just crushed the ball down the left field line. It actually hit the fence, you know, on a fly. I think it was like 110 mile an hour exit velocity. So RBI double for his first ever major league hit.
Yep.
And then he follows that up right out of the rain delay with if you stayed watching, stayed awake for throughout the delay, you were rewarded because, you know, game tying home run in the 8th inning coming out of the delay. So it was fun. It's always cool to see like those top prospects their first game and seeing them perform like right out of the gate. It's kind of cool just because you've been following them for a while and, you know, you finally get to see them. You know, I don't know. It was a cool game to watch. Last night was actually fun. Like you look at Twitter and people were having fun. So it was cool. Who knows? We haven't seen him this year. Normally you'd have minor league numbers to look at. Who knows if the hitting has developed more? I mean, last year he was a pretty meh hitter in AAA.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if Ke'Bryan Hayes can actually I know it's one game, but if Hayes can turn into a decent bat, his glove, he showed off the glove yesterday too. So he made some nice plays at third base, some nice almost plays at third base. So you could kind of see what he had with him. But no, it was a great debut. It was a lot of fun to watch it.
And I think you hit the point there, just the word fun. What have we been talking about all year? It's been hard to watch these Pirate games because, yeah, they're bad, but you can usually find something within the game to get excited about. When the season started, we talked about, okay, so we know the Pirates are going to be that good, but I'm excited to see Chad Cole. Like, I'm excited to see JT Brubaker, the stuff like that. But that's been like the problem. All these players have been pretty bad this year as well. Again, why couldn't the Pirates trade anyone? Well, because their players been kind of bad. So, we've been trying to find at least things within the game, things within the Pirates to excite you. This was it. Ke'Bryan Hayes getting the call up. This has excited the fan base. That's all we needed. We get to see Ke'Bryan Hayes finally. What can he do? Now, lucky for him, he didn't disappoint because we know how finicky Pirates, fan base is. And I feel like if he, stunk it, it'd be like, oh, guy, this guy's a bust. It was like the over and under. How long is it going to take for Ke'Bryan Hayes till he's called a bust, right? So he comes out swinging, and he gets a double, like you said, right off the bat, a home run, 2 very high exit velocities. The worry about Ke'Bryan Hayes was, is the bat going to be there? We know the glove plays. Is the bat going to be there? And in the very, of course, small sample size that we have to go off of this year, right, the 5 at-bats, we saw he can hit the ball pretty damn hard, Jim. So that's a good sign. Sustainability, of course, is what we need to see. But it's a good sign. Yeah, 108 and 110 last night. That's impressive.
Yeah, and then I didn't even mention probably one of the more exciting moments of the game too. So he's the runner on second in the 10th inning.
Yeah.
Pirates down by 1. He gets moved over to third, and Anthony Alford in his first at bat, little dribbler
his swinging
in front of the plate. Yeah, little dribbler in front of the plate, and Hayes just gets a great jump off of third, is able to slide in before the throw and home, so the throw and tag. So yeah, that was a fun play. Like you mentioned, I mean, there have not been too many moments during this season that you could say that were fun, and he provided some fun moments last night. So that's really all we were hoping for, and he came through.
Absolutely. So like you said, the glove was there. We saw the bat there. You saw speed on display. Hey, it's the second coming to Andrew McCutchen. Clearly, book it. Close the book. It's done. We know it's going to happen. All right. No, I did appreciate that game. I'm excited. And yeah, so now we have Ke'Bryan Hayes to look forward to the rest of this year. Finally, Jim, it happened. And I'm really intrigued to see what he's going to do. I know it's very limited to finish out the year. There's only 20-some games left. But it's kind of important. We're transitioning. We're seeing what we have. If he can go and finish out the season and have, honestly, just average offensive numbers, to me, that's a win, because I was very nervous about his offense. When you saw his AAA numbers last year, kind of, said yikes a little bit. This wasn't the prospect that you're hoping for. Maybe he figured things out. I'll shout out to, the Evil Neil's Twitter account. He put out some video that seems like there's some fundamental changes in his swing this year. So, like you said, maybe he has figured something out. Maybe he's been able to add that power to his bat. And if that can happen, watch out for this guy, because his glove alone is going to make him a valuable player.
Yeah, and that's what we've been saying the whole time. The glove alone is probably makes him a 2-WAR player, right? So if the bat can develop, that's where he can then become a little bit more valuable. If he can get into that, 3 to 4 WAR range, then you're talking about someone who can contribute to this team for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Jim, let's go ahead and I think you have a rant that you want to get off your chest today. So let me get the get the timer up. We'll get you all ready to go here. All right. So if you're ready, Jim, 1:30 on the clock.
All right. Well, I don't think this is going to take 1:30. It's not. It's so. this isn't even baseball related, but I just hate it that when you stop at like a gas station and you want a Diet Coke, just like a 20-ounce bottle of Diet Coke, you walk in every single time and it's like, all right, this bottle of Coke's $2.29. But then you see the sign where it says 2 for $3. The scam, DiNardo. Why did they do that? I only wanted one bottle of Coke, but I'm not going to pay $2.29 for one bottle. I might as well get the second bottle for 71 cents more. It's like, you might as well. But I don't want 2 bottles of Coke. What am I going to do with the second bottle? I'm not going to drink it. I'm just going to take it home, shove it in the refrigerator, and then I'll drink it while I'm watching the Padres at like 12 o'clock at night because there's nothing else to do. So not a fan of that. I wish they would just make the Diet Cokes $1.50 right off the bat so I could buy one and just be done with it. That's all I got.
See, Jim, you got to think more creatively. Now, first off, what you're trying to say is you hate marketing. So, okay. So Jim hates marketing. So if you're a marketing major, Jim doesn't like you.
Hate it.
But you got to think smart, Jim. Beat the system. So you get the 2 for $3. Then you just go to Walmart without a receipt. You return the other Coke. You get $2.29 back. Now you've purchased a Coke for just 71 cents.
First off, I don't know if you can just return a Coke. Like, is that even a thing?
At Walmart, I guarantee it. You can do it. I've literally witnessed, and I'm sure there's better stories than this, but I remember when I was younger, I went into Walmart to return something, and someone had a box of ice cream cones opened, half of them were eaten, and they returned it. So if they can return that, I'm sure you can return a bottle of Coke.
All right, that makes sense. Maybe not with COVID, though. I don't know if everybody's accepting returns.
It's probably Walmart.
might have to wait until post-COVID to try out that theory.
All right. So I'm just gonna stock up, come one day with this huge sack of Cokes.
Yes.
I'd like to return all of these. They didn't meet my satisfaction. All right. I like it. No, okay. All right. So you don't like marketing. I get it. I have a bit of a rant too. It's a little bit different. It's not so much baseball related as well, but I said, now Jim, you probably know even more than I've said, but I put some of this out there on Twitter. I'm tired of hearing these players are entitled. These players are rich. What are they doing out there saying this? Like they're rich. They can identify with what's going on in the world. I'm tired of hearing that. Like, part of having a platform is if you can stand up and use it for something good, you should. Like what has Roberto Clemente said time and time again? Roberto Clemente was a big proponent of this. As he mentioned, I'm going to pull it up right here so I can get it right. He said, anytime you have an opportunity to make a difference in this world and you don't, then you're wasting your time on earth. That was Roberto Clemente. We know all the stuff that he did. Also what he said was, I'm from poor people. I represent the poor people. These players, even though they're rich now, doesn't mean that they are always rich their entire life. Many of them came from these poor people. Many of them related to a lot of these stuff. And that's why they're advocating and doing things to use their platform to help them. But here's what I want to say to pivot that. Because using your platform for good is very good. But just because you have a platform doesn't mean you have to speak on everything. And this focuses more on a lot of people in Pittsburgh media. Just because you have a voice doesn't mean you have to speak on literally everything that happens, because that's where you start talking about things you don't relate to. You have no idea for, and you just think because you have something you can speak, and it makes yourself look like such a fool, such an idiot. There's so many times maybe you should just shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no relatability on this. Many people need to sometimes just shut their mouth and just listen. Just listen. That's all you need to do. Just listen to people. There is a situation going on. You can't relate. Shut up. That's who needs to shut up. Just shut up and listen. That's my rant. I only have 1:30. I'm sorry. This could go on for an hour.
Yeah, you went on a little bit longer there, but no, good rant. I agree 100% with everything you said.
All right. So that's that. Okay, Jim. Well, we are basically, 40-some minutes into the show now. Did you want to talk quickly about the Reds?
We'll do real quick. Maybe spend 5 minutes on the Reds.
Sounds good. That's all we need.
Yeah. So we got them coming up. The Reds. It's kind of weird if you look at their numbers. They've got some guys who are having really good seasons. Jesse Winker is still tearing the cover off the ball. Kurt Casale having a good season at catcher for them. Castellanos has cooled off a little bit since that first few weeks of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But their pitching staff still excellent. Sonny Gray got lit up last night, but still pitching great. Luis Castillo, Trevor Bauer, also that 1-2-3 punch, probably the best in perhaps the National League right now. I haven't looked to see who their probable pitchers are. I don't know if you've got that, but Bauer, has just been lights out. I could see him winning the Cy Young this year. Honestly, he's gonna definitely be in the conversation.
Absolutely, yeah, he's been tearing.
And then they just acquired Archie Bradley too, so he made his Reds debut last night.
I think the only pitcher that pitched a scoreless inning.
Yeah. So he made his Reds debut. So he did strengthen up that bullpen a little bit more because that was their trouble area. But yeah, I mean, honestly, they're not having as good of a season as I predicted. That's for sure.
Many people.
They're 6 games under 500. They bought at the deadline. They didn't sell. They're 3.5 games better than the Pirates. So, and that's all. They're still though just about a game, 2 games out of a playoff spot, I think. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we can cool off Winker a little bit. I know he destroyed us last series.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, there's definitely some offense, but I feel like it comes basically from like Castellanos and Winker. They're tearing the ball. Now, obviously, like you said, Castellanos has cooled down a bit, but still very productive. Just to say, so we talk about underrated players sometimes here and there. We've been talking. I can't stop talking about Juan Soto. You can't stop talking about Fernando Tatis Jr. So they're always out there. But when you look at them, it's obviously warranted. Their numbers are very good. But when you look at the league leaders, right? Who's leading the league offensively? You want to look like weighted run created plus. It's Juan Soto. Juan Soto's got 213 weighted runs created plus. You know who's right after him? It's Jesse Winker. And you want to talk about a guy who really doesn't get anything talked about on. No one's mentioning about Jesse Winker this year. If Juan Soto wasn't playing, he would be the number 1 offensive player in baseball right now. We're not talking about Mike Trout, not Fernando Tatis Jr. It's Jesse Winker. So this is who the Pirates are going to have to face. The Pirates don't really have that great pitching, so he might go off on us again, Jim.
Yeah. So the doubleheader Friday.
Yep.
And then Saturday and Sunday. So, 4-game series against the Reds. See how it goes. It's actually going to be interesting. The second game of the doubleheader, the Pirates will be the away team at PNC Park.
Nice.
I don't know if that's ever happened before.
That's good. So we have a double. We're gaining extra home games. That's more revenue for nutting.
There you go. All those fans.
That's right. All right. So just, I guess, quick prediction before we leave. 4 games. Do we win 2?
4 games. I think we win 1.
1.
Yep.
Just because that away game, huh? We get the home field advantage.
It's going to make it tough.
All right. I don't know. I feel like we might be able to split. I'm be more optimistic, Jim. I'm going to go 2.
Okay.
All right. Well, that wraps up the show. We'll be back tomorrow night for NS9 Live. And until then, we'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.
Later.